Chosen one, pause not to relax, but to awaken. Take one breath not to calm yourself, but to prepare your spirit. What follows is not inspiration. It is a divine alert. You did not stumble across this by accident. You were summoned. This is not coincidence. It is a spiritual summons, and something in you already knows it. You have felt the weight of this moment building for some time now. It showed up in your unrest, in the tension behind your eyes, in the way familiar things suddenly felt foreign. You've sensed the shift in your atmosphere. You've noticed the silence growing louder. You've felt the strange pull in your spirit, as if something invisible has been pressing against your reality. That something is purpose, and that purpose has waited long enough. This is not the first time heaven tried to reach you. There were quiet warnings, tears cried in private, strange dreams, gut feelings you ignored, the soft nudges of God's voice tucked between heartbreak and hope, but you silenced them, you dismissed them. You convinced yourself that it was nothing or worse, that you were not ready. But readiness is no longer a requirement. Obedience is. You are standing at the threshold now. What lies ahead is exposure of truth, of hidden things, of the path heaven has been clearing beneath your feet without your awareness. What lies behind you is a world that will not wait for your fear to settle. You are at a crossroads and no one else can make this turn for you. You must choose. You must understand this. Clearly, delay is no longer safe. Hesitation is no longer neutral. Your indecision now carries consequences, not because God is cruel, but because time has ripened. What once could wait now demands your answer. This moment is not poetic. It is prophetic. You are being summoned into your identity, and heaven will no longer tolerate your silence. Chosen one. The time of hiding is over. The days of doubting who you are, of shrinking to fit comfort, of tiptoeing around your calling, those days are behind you now. Whether you feel worthy or not, whether you think you're prepared or not, the call remains. Heaven is not asking for your perfection. It is commanding your awareness, because the season has shifted, and either you rise with it, or you will be swallowed by what you refuse to confront. You are not being called to safety. You are being called to truth, and truth never whispers forever. Sometimes it must roar. As C.S. Lewis wrote in Letters to Malcolm Chiefly on prayer, "We may ignore, but we can nowhere evade the presence of God. The world is crowded with him. He walks everywhere incognito." This truth underscores the urgency of your awakening. The shift you feel is not random. It is the incognito presence of God roaring through your spirit, demanding that you step out of hiding and into the truth of your calling. You cannot evade this divine summons, for heaven is watching, and the time to rise is now. Chosen one. There is a truth that can no longer be withheld. You are being watched, not by heaven alone, but by someone on this earth. Someone sent not by divine instruction, but by human fear, disguised as curiosity. A man once tethered to the spiritual realm, though long disconnected from it, was hired to observe you. His assignment wasn't overt violence. It wasn't confrontation. It was quiet intrusion, an attempt to study you from the shadows, to uncover what you refused to explain, to dissect your stillness and decode the silence that made others uneasy. He was not a criminal, not in the eyes of the law, but he was a trespasser in the spiritual sense, paid by someone too afraid to face you, too obsessed to let you go, and too proud to ask for what they really needed: peace. They didn't want your words. They wanted what your silence concealed. Your absence disturbed them more than your presence ever could, and so they sent someone hoping that through surveillance they could extract clarity, but what they found shook them to the core. There was no scandal. There was no hidden flaw to exploit. Instead, what emerged was conviction. The one assigned to monitor, you saw something they were never trained to encounter: sanctity. They witnessed prayers whispered in pain. They saw discipline born in private. They saw light in the middle of battle. They encountered a soul that had every reason to break, but didn't, And that changed everything. The man they sent walked away, not because he failed, but because he saw. And what he saw was holy. Your life became a mirror, and in it he recognized his own emptiness. He couldn't continue, not with the task, not with the deceit, not with the distance between who he was and who he had become. And when he left, something broke in the one who sent him, because now they knew you had nothing to hide. But they did. Their act of control had crossed a line, one not drawn by you but by heaven itself. And lines drawn by God are not crossed without consequence. C.S. Lewis in The Weight of Glory wrote, "There are no ordinary people. You have never talked to a mere mortal. This profound insight reveals the gravity of their mistake. The one who sent the watcher thought they were probing a mere person, but they trespassed upon a soul anointed by heaven, a vessel of divine purpose. Your sanctity, your resilience, your light, these are not ordinary, they are sacred, and their intrusion has awakened a divine response that they cannot escape. This isn't just about someone watching. This is about what they activated by watching. Chosen one, you are not common territory. You are consecrated space. Your life is not available for unauthorized entry. Those who attempt to access your spirit without consent awaken forces far greater than their understanding. And now the one who tried to study you is feeling the weight of what they touched. Not just regret, but dread. A deep inner knowing that they have stirred something they cannot silence. They felt in control when they sent the watcher, but now the watcher has walked away, and all that remains is their own reflection and the unmistakable awareness that they were never meant to reach into the holy without reverence. They didn't just observe you, they triggered a revealing dot. And now, chosen one, the realm they awakened is awake, and it's watching back. Chosen one, now we must speak plainly, not about the one who watched, but the one who sent them. This was never just about curiosity. It was not simply the act of hiring a man to follow your life from a distance. It was about something deeper, something far more dangerous. It was about control disguised as concern, obsession masked as longing. This person didn't come looking for closure. They came looking for access. Access they no longer had, and access they believed they were entitled to reclaim. At first, it may have felt like confusion, a strange shift in someone's energy, the silence after you pulled away, the questions they never asked directly, the way they panicked when your light became too distant for them to manage. They didn't know how to speak to your spirit, so they followed your shadow. They couldn't face what you had become, so they reached for remnants of who you used to be. But what they didn't understand is this: you are not available through indirect means. You cannot be accessed by watching. You cannot be decoded through distance. What they tried to control heaven had already sealed, and what they attempted to study God had already anointed. There's something deeply unsettling now growing inside of them. It's not guilt in the way the world defines it. It is a spiritual tension, the kind that rises when someone trespasses divine boundaries and is now standing on unstable ground. They thought they could study you without consequence. But there are some lives, chosen one, that come with protective layers, not seen by the natural eye. Your life is one of them. And now they feel it, don't they? The shift, the weight, the invisible pressure pressing back, not from you, but from something much higher. And yet you must understand this clearly. Their actions did not begin in hatred. They began in longing, misplaced, yes, twisted by fear and pride. Yes, but at the root was a hunger to reconnect with something they didn't know how to name. When you went quiet, they misread it. When your energy shifted, they panicked. They mistook your sacred stillness as rejection. They mistook your boundaries as betrayal. And instead of facing their pain, they chose control. That was the moment everything began to unravel. C.S. Lewis in the Screwtape Letters wrote, The safest road to hell is the gradual one, the gentle slope soft underfoot, without sudden turnings, without milestones, without signposts. This truth illuminates the path the one who sent the watcher has taken. Their longing twisted into control, led them down a gradual slope of spiritual violation, unmarked by clear warnings but deadly in its destination. Their actions, though rooted in human emotion, have crossed into a realm where divine boundaries hold sway, and they now face the consequences of their subtle trespass. But this is where the warning sharpens. Your compassion must not blind your discernment. Just because something began in longing does not mean it ends in love. Not all brokenness seeks healing. Some brokenness seeks access, unauthorized, unchecked, and ultimately destructive. You must not be naive. Their tears may be real, their sorrow may be loud, but not every apology is a doorway. Some are distractions, some are rehearsed, some are merely the final mask before the next invasion. And if you open the gate too soon, you will not be rescuing them. You will be forfeiting your peace. They didn't reach out. They reached around. They didn't confess. They sent someone to extract, and now they are standing on ground that is no longer safe for them. They don't fear you. They fear judgment. They fear what heaven has already seen, what you may one day fully recognize. And that fear, if left unchecked, can turn desperate. That is why you must stay grounded. You must remain awake, because what they set in motion will not stop just because they regret it. And what heaven has revealed to you now must not be ignored. The one behind the curtain has been exposed. What they do next is not your responsibility. But what you do next will determine whether this was just a warning or the beginning of war. Chosen one, you were never meant to remain in the dark, not about your calling, not about your surroundings, and certainly not about the intentions of those who've drawn close to you in silence. The time for shadows has ended. The veil is lifting, and heaven is making a public declaration of what has been concealed for too long. Nothing hidden will remain hidden. This is not simply a moment of emotional reckoning. It is a spiritual confrontation. And it is written, Luke 8:17, "For nothing is hidden that will not be made manifest, nor anything secret that will not be known and come to light." This is not metaphor. This is not poetic. This is law. Heaven's law, and it is now being enforced. The secrets, the silent intentions, the whispered schemes, they are no longer protected. They are now subject to the light. You must understand what that means. Every motive that was masked with politeness is being unmasked. Every action that pretended to be concern is being reclassified. Every person who smiled while investigating your life behind closed doors is now under divine observation. They are not simply guilty of watching. They are guilty of invading, and you, chosen one, are no longer allowed to dismiss it as coincidence or confusion. Heaven has made it plain, and when heaven reveals, it is not seeking permission. It is declaring war on spiritual blindness. There is a reason this message reached you now. The clock has struck a new hour. You have crossed into a time where neutrality is a threat to your purpose. You cannot unknow what has been made known. You cannot return to old forms of passivity, to the polite silence that once protected the feelings of those who would rather study you than stand beside you in truth. That season is over. Now is the time for alignment, not appeasement. And yes, chosen one, the revelation hurts. It hurts to realize someone didn't come forward with love, but with an investigator. It hurts to know that while you were praying for clarity, someone else was plotting to extract secrets. But hear this, your pain is not weakness. It is proof of your sacred worth. No one studies the ordinary. No one seeks to dissect the forgettable. The very fact that they felt the need to go around your voice to access your truth is the clearest evidence of your spiritual gravity. You are not simply seen, you are sought. And now heaven has drawn the line. C.S. Lewis in Mere Christianity wrote, "It may be hard for an egg to turn into a bird. It would be a jolly sight harder for it to learn to fly while remaining an egg." This metaphor captures the essence of your current moment. The pain of this revelation is the cracking of the shell, the necessary breaking of old illusions to allow the truth of your calling to emerge. You cannot remain in the comfort of ignorance and expect to soar into your divine purpose. Embrace this unveiling, for it is the holy process of your transformation into the resilient vessel heaven has destined you to be. What comes next will be the undoing of deception. Quietly, swiftly, divinely. Don't fear the exposure. Don't fight the unveiling. What is collapsing around you is not your safety. It is the scaffolding of falsehood that was never meant to hold your destiny in the first place. Let it fall. Let it all fall. And as it falls, let one truth ring louder than any apology that may or may not come. You are not the one being judged. You are the one being vindicated, chosen one. This is where your identity must become unshakable. You were never the target. They only treated you like one because they couldn't comprehend the weight you carry. They saw stillness and called it passivity. They saw silence and called it weakness. But what they failed to understand is that your life is not a battlefield to invade. It is a sanctuary, and sanctuaries are not entered casually. You have been mistaken for someone manageable. You've been perceived as someone to analyze, to interpret, to unravel from a distance. But you are not a puzzle to be solved. You are a vessel consecrated by the hand of God. You are a dwelling place for purpose, protected not just by faith, but by divine design. And those who approached you without reverence, without permission, now face a reality. They were never prepared for your life is not open terrain. It is guarded territory. And what they thought they could touch without consequence has responded with clarity and consequence. Let this settle in your spirit. People do not follow shadows unless the light behind them is disruptive. What they pursued was not information. It was presence. They felt something in you they couldn't explain. A weight, a frequency, a peace that unsettled their unrest. And in trying to define it, they trespassed. They touched what was holy without purification. And now their eyes are open not to your weakness but to your covering, not to your flaws but to your fire. This is why they tremble now, not because you have threatened them, but because your life revealed something their spirits weren't ready to face. You have become a mirror, and mirrors do not lie. You did not expose them with words. You exposed them with your peace, with your integrity, with the way you kept giving when no one was watching, when no one thanked you, when no one stayed. And now they are shaken not because they saw darkness in you, but because they saw none. Chosen one, your presence carries confrontation, not through accusation, but through clarity. It is your peace that speaks louder than their manipulation. It is your boundaries that reveal their entitlement. It is your purity that breaks the illusion of their control. You don't have to lift a hand. Your very existence is enough. You don't have to fight to prove your worth. Your alignment has already made that declaration. You are not the one under investigation. You are the revelation itself. And those who dared to approach you in disguise are now facing the truth of who they've come up against. Not a victim, not a subject, but a vessel of fire, of light, of purpose. So stand still, not in fear, but in knowing. Because from this point forward, every false motive, every hidden agenda, every eye that wandered too far into your life will answer not to you, but to the one who anointed you. And their greatest shock will not be your silence. It will be your resilience. That after all the watching, all the digging, all the subtle violation, you did not collapse. You rose. Chosen one. Whether you realize it or not, something has already shifted. The moment the watcher walked away, the sequence began. Not in chaos, not with noise, but with precision. The unraveling is already in motion, quiet, divine, unstoppable. And you, whether ready or not, are at the center of it. You've felt the tension in the atmosphere, the dreams that won't leave you, the people suddenly falling silent or reappearing without warning. You've noticed the timing of conversations, the strange interruptions, the messages that seem too specific to ignore. This is not coincidence. This is not confusion. This is divine alignment, tightening its grip on your life. What was once loose is now being bound. What was hidden is being pulled into the light, and what was stagnant is being set into motion. The spiritual terrain beneath your feet is no longer still. It is moving, responding to the call that rests over your name. Someone will come forward. Un message may surface. A door may crack open, not wide, not obvious, but just enough to test your discernment. And when it does, do not look with old eyes. Do not listen with old wounds. The one who sent the observer may reappear not with force but with apology, not with rage but with sorrow. And yet sorrow is not always repentance. You must know the difference. Desperation can mimic humility. Guilt can dress itself as honesty. But what you must watch for is transformation. This is the test hidden inside the revelation. Heaven is not simply exposing what was done to you. It is watching how you respond to what is now revealed. Will you reach back out of sentiment? Will you reopen doors that God sealed shut? Or will you hold your ground, not in bitterness but in truth? This is not about revenge. It is about responsibility. You carry something sacred, and anything that threatens the purity of that must not be entertained, no matter how regretful it now appears. You don't owe anyone re-entry just because they now feel remorse. Access to your life is not granted by apology. It is earned through alignment. And alignment is not claimed with words. It is proven by fruit. So if they come, and they might stand still, let your silence measure their sincerity. Let your stillness test the truth in their return. If they are coming to be healed, they will respect your boundaries. But if they are coming to regain control, they will press. They will guilt. They will shift the narrative to make themselves the wounded one. That is how you will know. This is the hour of holy clarity. You are being reintroduced to yourself, not the version molded by people's comfort, but the one refined in fire. You are not reactive. You are no longer raw. You are no longer answering from pain. You are responding from placement. Your feet are in position now, and from this position you do not chase. You do not explain. You discern. You decide. The sequence has begun, and its purpose is not to destroy what was. It is to protect what is becoming. Your life is entering a new arrangement where heaven orchestrates movement with supernatural timing. What you thought was delay was preparation. What felt like betrayal was exposure. And what seemed like loss was God closing every back door so that you would no longer be accessible to the ones who never valued the sacredness of your peace. This is not just the end of deception. It is the beginning of distinction. Chosen one, hear this clearly. You are no longer being invited. You are being summoned. Time is no longer extending its hand in patience. It is now drawing a line. What was once a gentle knock is now a final call, and heaven is not repeating itself. The delay you've grown accustomed to, the grace period between calling and obedience, has expired. The clock is not waiting for your comfort. Destiny is not slowing down for your hesitation. The door is moving, and if you do not step through, it will not remain open out of sentiment. You have been given space to grow. You have been given time to question, to grieve, to recover. But there comes a point where healing becomes hiding, where discernment turns into avoidance, and heaven sees it not as rebellion, but as fear. Still, even fear has a consequence when it begins to block divine movement. And right now, your calling is at risk of being suffocated by your silence. You are not being threatened. You are being warned with love, but with weight. This isn't just about you anymore. There are people connected to your obedience. There are lives, breakthroughs, alignments, and awakenings waiting on the other side of your yes. Your posture has influence. Your presence has authority. And the longer you shrink, the longer everything assigned to you waits in limbo. But heaven won't wait forever, and neither will time. Do not be deceived. This moment isn't just holy, it's heavy. Heavy with responsibility. Heavy with consequence. Because to be chosen means you are no longer entitled to ordinary reactions. You don't get to respond like everyone else. You don't get to play small and spiritual at the same time. You don't get to beg God for clarity while simultaneously ignoring the evidence He's already revealed. To whom much is given, much is required, and whether you feel ready or not, much has been given to you. This is the hour of decision. You can't keep standing in between, one foot in fear, the other in faith. You can't keep calling yourself surrendered while clinging to comfort. What God has spoken over your life is not vague. It is not optional. It is not seasonal. It is eternal, and it will not adjust itself to fit your hesitation. So you must decide, will you walk forward as one chosen, or will you remain as one haunted? Haunted by what could have been, by the door that was once open, by the purpose that was once within reach. Heaven has made its move. The light has done its work. The curtain has been pulled back. The motives revealed, the lies exposed. And now time waits no more. You are standing in the final pause before the next phase begins. What you do now will echo. What you allow now will root. What you ignore now will cost. There is no going back. The invitation has become a summons. The summons has become a warning. And the warning is this: what you delay may be given to someone else if you continue to refuse to carry it. The hour has come. Step in or be stepped over. Chosen one. You need to know, this heaven is not waiting. Heaven has already responded. The moment the line was crossed, the moment someone tried to access what was not theirs, to touch a decree was issued in the unseen. You didn't feel it at first, but the shift was immediate. The exposure didn't begin with a whisper, it began with a judgment. And while you were still trying to make sense of what was happening, heaven had already moved to defend what was sacred. This is what you must understand. Divine justice does not wait for your permission. It does not consult your comfort. It doesn't need your confirmation to begin. When spiritual trespass is committed, heaven acts not out of rage but out of righteousness. And when someone tried to enter the space around your soul without reverence, without repentance, it activated a sequence they cannot undo. What they touched was not just your life, it was your covering. And that covering has been marked by God Himself. They will feel the weight of that now, not because you retaliated, but because heaven did. Not with thunder, not with fire, but with truth. Truth has a way of shaking things that pretended to be steady. It dismantles false peace. It unravels quiet control. And that is exactly what is happening. The one who hired the watcher has already begun to unravel, not on the outside, but in the soul. They are feeling the ripple of divine exposure. They are being confronted, not by your anger, but by the mirror your presence has become. Do not mistake this unraveling as drama. It is discipline. Do not confuse this discomfort with chaos. It is correction, and it is not yours to manage. It is not your job to fix the emotional aftermath of someone else's spiritual violation. You are not responsible for their awakening. You are only responsible for your alignment. Heaven has seen what was done. Heaven has heard what was said. And heaven has intervened not to punish them, but to preserve you. You were about to walk into a new level while still unaware of the eyes that had latched onto your light without honor. And so in mercy God revealed it, not to shame you, not to traumatize you, but to give you time to step fully into authority with both eyes open. This is not just protection, it is preparation. You are being positioned in a way that will no longer allow subtle sabotage, no more spiritual parasites, no more hidden alliances. The exposure was a gift, even if it felt like betrayal, because you cannot carry this next mantle with shadows clinging to your feet. You cannot rise with blind spots, and heaven will not allow delay caused by what you refuse to confront. So understand this, the one who crossed the line is no longer moving unnoticed. Every whisper is heard, every motive is seen, and while God is merciful, God is also just. Forgiveness does not cancel consequence. Grace does not erase responsibility. And what they sowed in secret will be answered by what heaven brings into the light. You do not need to defend yourself. You do not need to expose anyone. Heaven already has. And what comes next will not come through your retaliation, it will come through your readiness. The more aligned you are, the more heaven accelerates. The more silent you stay in bitterness, the more clear God becomes in your elevation. The warning has been issued. The exposure is complete. And now the question isn't whether heaven has moved. The question is, will you? Chosen one, now that the hidden has been exposed and heaven has already moved on your behalf. The silence must end, not because you owe anyone an explanation, but because in the realm of the Spirit, what is left undeclared remains vulnerable. You've spent enough time questioning, discerning, holding back, trying to understand whether what you sensed was real. The confirmation has come. The line was crossed. The spiritual boundaries were violated. The watching was real. And now your voice must rise to match what heaven has already revealed. This is not the time to retreat inward. It is the moment to align outward. What you speak now sets the tone for what comes next. This is not about emotional release. It is about spiritual legislation. What you declare becomes law over your atmosphere. What you affirm now becomes a sword in your hand and a seal around your calling. If you stay silent after clarity, confusion will try to re-enter. But if you speak, if you claim the truth, you now carry it, establishes a line that no enemy can cross. So say it plainly, not just in thought but aloud. Say, I am not hiding. I am not shrinking. I am not available to manipulation or silent invasion. Say, I walk in the light. I carry the seal of the chosen. I am no longer accessible to those who come without reverence. These are not empty affirmations. They are prophetic activations. They signal to the unseen that you know who you are, and more importantly, that you are no longer afraid to walk in it. Your words matter now more than ever. The enemy only attaches to what you haven't claimed. The moment you draw the line with your voice, heaven enforces it with power. This is why your declaration isn't just a response. It's a shift in jurisdiction. You are no longer watching your life unfold. You are taking authority over it. You are no longer waiting for validation. You are walking in revelation. Let this truth settle into your spirit. You do not owe access to those who violated boundaries in silence. You are not called to accommodate spiritual theft just because it wore a familiar face. The past is not your prison. The silence is not your sanctuary. And the season of being watched without protection is over. From now on, you are not the one being observed. You are the one being honored. So stand and speak. I accept the call. I agree with heaven. I reject every false gaze and every silent intrusion. I rise now with full authority, and I will not apologize for being chosen. When you say this, say it with finality. Say it not just for others to hear, but for yourself. Because this declaration doesn't just close the past, it opens the future. And from this moment forward, heaven will not wait on your hesitation. It will respond to your courage. Chosen one, something irreversible has already begun. You may have sensed it quietly like a current beneath the surface of your routines, or perhaps you felt it violently through broken connections, disrupted patterns, unexplainable restlessness. But now you can name it. The shift is here. It is not coming. It is not approaching. It has arrived. And it is not subtle. It is sacred. It is restructuring everything around you to match what has been transformed within you. This shift is not random. It is the direct result of what you've survived, of what you've chosen, of what you've endured without recognition. Every hidden decision to obey, every quiet prayer spoken through gritted teeth, every time you chose silence over retaliation, alignment over attention, growth over comfort, heaven recorded it. And now, the reward is not just emotional healing, it's divine repositioning. You are no longer who you were when this process began. You are no longer waiting for validation to confirm what your spirit already knew. You are no longer digesting confusion as if it were your fault. The shaking was never punishment. It was preparation. The stripping was never cruelty. It was clarity. And now, the rearranging has begun. People will start to feel it before they understand it. Some will withdraw from you without reason. Others will attempt to reattach themselves, suddenly sensing that something has shifted, but not knowing why they feel compelled to come closer or stay away. Do not chase. Do not explain. Do not interrupt the divine rhythm now moving through your life. When God initiates a shift, your job is not to manage the reactions of others. It is to stay aligned with the movement of heaven. You are being positioned for acceleration. Doors that took years to approach will now swing open in weeks. Conversations once impossible will unfold without force. Provision will locate you without begging, and favor will begin to appear in unexpected places. But know this, with every rising comes revealing. The shift doesn't just elevate, it exposes. Some around you were comfortable with your silence, but they will not be comfortable with your strength. They supported your healing as long as it didn't disrupt their control. They tolerated your growth as long as it didn't require them to confront their own stagnancy. And now that the light is rising over your life, it will reveal who was truly for you and who was only ever near you to study your glow. Let them fall away if they must. Let what is not aligned dissolve without resistance. You are not being punished by loss. You are being protected by clarity. The pruning is not rejection, it is refinement. You are not walking backward. You are stepping into divine order. And in that order there is no room for fragments of your past that carry confusion into your future. This is your hour of distinction. The difference between who you were and who you are now cannot be blurred. You are no longer accessible in the same way. You are no longer the version of yourself who tolerated being watched in silence, who explained away spiritual violation as misunderstanding. You are no longer surviving. You are rising. And what's coming next will not resemble anything you've known before. So breathe deeply, chosen one. Let go of the weight that's no longer yours. Walk forward, not with fear, not with arrogance, but with quiet authority. You don't have to prove anything. You only need to keep moving. In alignment. The shift is here. It is holy. It is final. And you are ready. Chosen one, you may be wondering what becomes of the one who crossed the line, who watched without honor, who sent another to observe what they could not confront. The answer is already unfolding. What they touched, they did not understand. What they tried to access, they did not respect. And now they are facing the consequence of awakening something far greater than themselves. They are not at peace. Not because you retaliated, but because their spirit knows they stepped into sacred territory, uninvited. You were not just a person to them. You were a mystery, a force, an unresolved longing they could not contain. And in their desperation to make sense of you, they violated the very boundaries God placed to protect you. What began as curiosity became obsession. What began as fear of losing you became a quiet war for control. But what they failed to realize is this: you cannot possess what heaven has preserved. You cannot dissect what was consecrated before you were born. Now, that weight is pressing on them, not with visible fire, but with invisible conviction. They are unraveling not because anyone exposed them, but because truth has a way of undoing what lies tried to build. They sent a man to investigate you, hoping to find secrets. Instead, they encountered sanctity. Instead of exposure, they found evidence of grace, of prayer, of divine favor. And that truth is now tormenting them, not because you fought back, but because you didn't have to. The purity of your walk became their mirror. The silence of your obedience became louder than their attempts at control. But you must be clear about this. Their unraveling is not your responsibility. Their regret is not your invitation. Their brokenness does not obligate your compassion. Yes, you can forgive. Yes, you can release. But restoration is not guaranteed just because someone now wishes they had chosen differently. Forgiveness is your freedom. Reconciliation is God's decision. Do not be deceived by emotion. Not all tears are repentance. Some are rooted in shame, others in panic. But true transformation does not beg for access. It respects distance. If they have truly changed, they will honor the space they once violated. They will not push. They will not manipulate. They will not try to reset the clock. They will acknowledge the breach and take their place outside the walls of your restoration, unless and until heaven says otherwise. This is not punishment. This is protection. Because, chosen one, your life is no longer open terrain. Your spirit is no longer vulnerable to familiar spirits in familiar faces. The boundary now in place was not built from bitterness. It was built by God. And if you break it out of misplaced empathy, you risk inviting back the very storm you just survived. So release them, but release them upward. Give them back to the one who sees all. Do not carry what conviction is already doing in them. Let God finish what he started. Your hands are no longer required in their journey. And if they ever return, it will not be because you rescued them. It will be because they met the same light that met you in your darkest hour. Let the one who trespassed wrestle with what they awakened. Let them feel the weight of crossing into something sacred without permission. Because now they know you were never hiding. You were being hidden. And heaven watches over what it hides. Chosen one, the unfolding is not distant, it is near. You are stepping into a stretch of time that has already been marked in the spirit 10 days. 10 days where alignment sharpens, where movement accelerates, and where a divine confirmation, clear, specific, and undeniable, will find you. This is not a window to wait passively. It is a window to walk carefully, intentionally, and alert to the whispers of heaven. Because in the next 10 days, something will happen that will seal everything this message has revealed. Something exact, something unmistakable, something that will leave no doubt that God has gone ahead of you. It may not come through fire or thunder. It may not come with flashing signs. It may be a name you haven't heard in years suddenly resurfacing. A door you thought was permanently closed, cracking open in silence. A message you never expected arriving in the quiet hours of night. It might look ordinary to the world, but your spirit will know it's divine. It's timed. It's not coincidence. It's confirmation. In these 10 days, watch everything but respond to little doubt. Be quick to observe and slow to engage. Not everything that comes deserves a reply. Some things come only to test the new you, to see if your discernment matches your revelation. And if you are not careful, you'll interpret a divine moment as a distraction, or worse, interpret a distraction as a divine moment. This is why you must stay rooted. Stay still. Let your peace filter every encounter. If someone reaches out from your past, do not react from memory. Respond if led from clarity. If an offer presents itself, do not accept it from scarcity. Weigh it against what heaven has already told you. Let nothing enter your space without passing through the gate of your discernment. These 10 days are holy. They are charged with consequence. What you allow and what you align with, what you say yes to, will shape your next season. But do not fear. You are not walking blind. You are not navigating this alone. The same force that exposed the hidden is now guiding your feet. The path is being made straight, not because you control it, but because you surrendered to it. Your steps have been ordered. Your name has been whispered in rooms you haven't walked into yet. And while people may still misread you, heaven never has. The next 10 days are not about performance. They are about alignment. You don't need to impress anyone. You only need to walk in truth. And when the moment comes, the message, the conversation, the open door, you'll feel it. Not as emotion, but as deep spiritual recognition. Your heart will quicken. Your breath will still. And somewhere inside you'll know this is it. This is what everything was leading to. This is what the watching, the exposure, the warning, the release, all of it was preparing you to receive. So write it now on the tablets of your soul. I will not doubt this time. I will not retreat. I will not explain away the divine. When it arrives, I will know, and I will walk through it. The next 10 days are not random. They are anointed, and they are waiting for your awareness to meet them fully. Chosen one, what heaven is about to do in your life cannot land in chaos. It cannot rest where noise reigns, where distraction dominates, or where unhealed patterns take up space. You are not just being called to awareness, you are being called to preparation. And this preparation is not about striving, it is about atmosphere, because the atmosphere around you shapes the clarity within you. And if you want to receive what is coming with precision, you must create space for peace to rule. This is not performance. This is positioning. It begins in the physical, decluttering your space, making room for stillness, silencing the unnecessary voices. But it quickly becomes spiritual, consecrating time, removing patterns that drain you and treating every moment of quiet as sacred ground. Light a candle if you must. Sit in the silence before the day begins. Let your phone rest. Let the screen fade. And return your heart to stillness, not as a luxury, but as a lifestyle. Your spirit is sensitive for a reason. Your discernment sharp. Your atmosphere matters. Because what is arriving is holy, and holy things cannot dwell where disorder lives. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to perform purity. You need only to prepare, and that preparation begins with a declaration: I am ready to host the presence of clarity. I am available to truth. I make room for what heaven is about to release. Let this declaration shape your mornings. Speak it out loud before you check anything else. Let it frame your interactions. Before you engage with anyone, ask, does this protect my clarity, or does it pollute my spirit? Begin to choose peace over people-pleasing. Choose solitude over shallow noise. Choose alignment over attention. Because everything you do in these coming days will either draw you closer to the encounter or delay it. You are now in a sacred window, and sacred windows close when treated casually. Do not normalize this moment. Do not treat this inner stirring like a passing mood. Heaven is leaning in, timing is tightening, and the presence of God is brushing against your atmosphere, waiting for one thing: your full, unshaken yes. So take this seriously. Prepare not with fear, but with reverence. Create an atmosphere that heaven won't have to fight to enter. Don't wait until the miracle appears to make space for it. Let the miracle find the space already prepared. Make your life a landing strip for revelation. Chosen one, the one who once watched you from the shadows is not the same. Something in them has shifted quietly, painfully, profoundly. They didn't just walk away from the investigation. They walked into conviction. They weren't chased out. They were confronted by light. Not the kind that blinds, but the kind that reveals. And now they are searching not for you, but for the source of what you carry. They thought they were sent to observe, but what they encountered was glory. It was not loud. It was not staged. It was simply there in the way you stood, in the stillness of your eyes, in the atmosphere around your life. It shook them, not because they were afraid of you, but because they saw something they could not explain, a peace that pierced a presence that lingered, a holiness that refused to be defined. That presence has not left them. It followed them home. It disrupted their sleep. It pressed into their thoughts when they were alone. They tried to forget it, tried to shake it, but conviction does not retreat once it has been ignited. They were sent to collect information. Instead, they were confronted by reverence. And now, for the first time in a long time, they are wrestling not with your actions, but with their own emptiness. You may never know the full depth of what they're facing now. You may never hear the full story, but something has begun in them, and the seed that was planted through your obedience is now breaking through the surface. They are searching, not for power, not for leverage, but for God. They may not know how to articulate it yet, but they are feeling the weight of what they once dismissed. This is not your doing. This is not your burden. This is fruit. The fruit of your restraint, the fruit of your purity, the fruit of your stillness in the face of intrusion. Your life became a message louder than any sermon they've ever heard. And now they are returning, not with entitlement, but with trembling. Not with control, but with awe. They saw something in you that the world couldn't offer them. And now they're walking toward the light, not because you called them, but because heaven did. Because the same presence that guarded you is now calling to them. And in this you must remember, the one who trespassed is now being tracked by grace. You were never the destination. You were the altar. And now the fire has found them. Chosen one. Understand this truth deeply. You were never the puzzle they couldn't solve. You were the mirror they couldn't face. From the very beginning, they weren't chasing answers. They were running from their own reflection. And when they came close to you, they were forced to look into themselves, perhaps for the first time. Not because you exposed them with confrontation, but because your existence made hiding impossible. They misread your peace as distance. They confused your boundaries with pride. They mistook your calm for coldness. But the discomfort they felt in your presence was never about you. It was about what they saw in the silence between your words. They weren't studying your life. They were being confronted by their own. That is what mirrors do. They don't speak. They reveal. You didn't need to shout. You didn't need to defend yourself. You didn't need to prove what was pure. Your life became its own sermon. Your stillness was sharper than confrontation. Your obedience pierced deeper than argument. And now everything you were in secret, the prayers, the waiting, the surrender, is bearing witness against every false assumption spoken about you. They thought you were hiding something, but the truth is you were holding something sacred, and because they could not name it, they tried to control it. They came closer not to honor it, but to contain it. But God cannot be contained, and what he places inside of his chosen ones cannot be managed by fear or dissected through distance. The moment they tried to interpret you through human reasoning, they lost sight of the holy, but grace did not allow them to walk away unchanged. No one touches a mirror, ordained by heaven, and walks away the same. They came seeking leverage. They left carrying conviction. And now they know you were never the enigma. You were the evidence that God still speaks, still selects, still sanctifies those who walk quietly with him. You are not confusing. You are set apart. You are not distant. You are deeply rooted. And while they may have walked away with questions, heaven answered all of them through you, without a single word spoken. So stand in this, knowing you do not need to apologize for making others uncomfortable when your light exposes what they've buried. You are not called to dim. You are called to reflect. And those who cannot face the reflection are not rejecting you. They are rejecting what they are not yet ready to change. Chosen one, it is time to rise, not in pride, but in posture, not in noise, but in authority. You have spent enough time in survival mode, managing wounds in silence, navigating chaos with grace, and hoping not to be misunderstood. But heaven is not asking you to be understood. Heaven is calling you to be established. The season of waiting quietly for permission to be who God called you to be is over. What comes next cannot be carried with a shrinking posture. You must stand. You are not returning to who you were before this pain. You are not slipping back into a quieter, safer version of yourself. That version is gone, refined by fire, redefined by revelation. What remains is someone forged in stillness, proven in private, and now appointed for visibility. The platform you are about to walk into is not for applause. It is for demonstration. God is about to show through your life what glory looks like after grief, what wisdom sounds like after betrayal, what peace walks like after war. You do not need to defend your process. You do not need to re-explain what happened. Let those who never understood you try to reconcile the version of you they once mishandled with the power you now carry, and let them watch in silence as your life becomes the response they never gave you. You are not angry. You are not vindictive. You are simply unavailable to anything that seeks to pull you back into a place you no longer belong. Your authority will not always be loud, but it will be undeniable. When you enter rooms now, the air will shift. When you speak, hearts will soften or harden because truth never leaves people neutral. You won't need to announce who you are. The evidence of your obedience will speak before you open your mouth. Walk like someone who knows that heaven has already cleared the way. Walk like someone who has nothing left to prove. Walk like someone who doesn't just carry favor, but protects it. Let your pace be slow but steady. Let your decisions be clean and spirit-led. Let your relationships be few but covenantal. You are not called to be everywhere. You are called to be effective. And you cannot be effective while entertaining the familiar voices that once trained you to question your discernment. Let them go. They will either revolve in your absence or fade in your silence. Either way, your focus must remain intact. This next season is not about being seen. It's about being strategic. And strategy flows from stillness, from listening, from staying so deeply rooted in God's voice that no applause and no accusation can pull you out of position. You're not chasing platforms. You're standing in placement. You're not seeking validation. You are responding to commission. You are not proving worth. You are walking in it. Chosen one, this is your threshold moment. The truth has been revealed. The hidden has been brought to light. Heaven has not only spoken, it has moved. The message is not theory. It is confirmation. The watching has ended. The shaking has passed. And now in this sacred stillness, heaven leans in to ask you one final question. Will you walk forward, not in survival, but in authority? This is no longer about healing. This is about commissioning. You've seen enough, endured enough, and waited long enough. The invitation has shifted into a summons. You are no longer being processed. You are being positioned. This next chapter will not wait for your comfort. It will move at the speed of obedience. And to enter it, you must release the final weight, the fear of being misunderstood, the need to explain what heaven has already confirmed, the urge to return to what no longer fits. You are not returning. You are not revisiting. You are not repeating. You are rising. And as you rise, you must speak, not with noise, but with alignment, because your voice now carries jurisdiction. Your words carry consequence. Silence at this point is no longer wisdom, it is delay. So let your mouth open not in defense, but in decree. Speak it plainly and without fear. I am no longer hidden. I am no longer shrinking. I am not available to manipulation. I am no longer at the mercy of those who studied me, but never honored me. I have been chosen, sealed, and sent. I carry something sacred, and I protect it without apology. What was sent to watch me will now witness me walk fully in my calling. What once drained me will never access me again. My peace is guarded. My presence is not casual. I am the evidence of grace, and I stand in full agreement with heaven's verdict over my life. Let these words not be mere poetry, but prophecy. Let them echo in the spirit and shake the silence that once held you back. Let them be your agreement with the truth God has written into your days. You do not walk forward as a mystery. You walk forward as a mirror. One that reflected light even in the darkest seasons. And now the light that once protected you in secret will cover you in visibility. You will be known not by title, not by crowd, but by fruit. And your fruit will silence every lie. Now lift your heart and seal this moment, not with striving, but with prayer. A prayer not of desperation, but of release. Father, I thank you not just for the exposure, but for the preservation. Not just for the protection, but for the placement. You saw what I didn't. You guarded what I couldn't. And you loved me enough to shake what I would have settled for. I surrender again, not because I'm weak, but because you are worthy. I say yes again, not from fear, but from fire. I receive this alignment. I protect this peace. I walk in this commissioning. Let my life reflect your order not just in private, but in public. Let every place I enter be changed, because I carry you there. I do not chase, I do not shrink, and I do not delay. I rise, I walk, I become, and I do it all in your name alone. Amen. So now it begins, with no more delay, no more apology, no more retreat. You walk forward clean chosen, covered. And every eye that once watched you in silence will now witness the glory they could never access. You were never overlooked. You were never unguarded. You were never undefined. You were always chosen. And now you rise,